Council, please come to order. Please stand. We'll be led in prayer by Alderman Mark Betancourt.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of your community. Amen.
Amen. Alderman Gould, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm here.
Evening, John. I'd like to welcome everyone to the first meeting in March. On March 1st, we are in compliance with the Governor's Executive Order 7B-1, and the meeting is being televised on the public access channel and posted on the city's website in real time. It's consistent with this order 7B-1 and the usual practices of the City of Norwich. All remarks or comments made by the mayor, the members of the city council, city officials, and the public during the citizen comment on resolutions and public hearing portion of the meeting will be included. Comments on citizens on resolutions may be made telephonically pursuant to the following instructions. The phone number is on the screen. Please call 860-215-8140, and when prompted, enter conference ID 403-8191, followed by the pound key. At this time, I would ask for a motion for the adoptions of the minutes of February 1st and 16th, 2021, please. Alderwoman Ella Miles, second. Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion on the adoption of the minutes? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Betancourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. And for the public record, Alderman Nash will not be able to join us this evening because of employment issues. Thank you.
Petition and communication. A report from David Eccleston, the ratepayer representative for Connecticut Municipal Electric Energy Cooperative.
Good evening, David, and welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So, first of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to represent Norwich ratepayers. It is both a responsibility and a privilege. And like last year, I'll provide a little bit of background just to make sure we're all grounded. First of all, CMEC, their mission, is predominantly to buy wholesale electricity on behalf of 6 of the 7 municipal electric utilities in Connecticut. And their mission statement says the things you want it to say. They want to be affordable, reliable, sustainable. They engage in procurement, production, and transmission, and some specialty services. And those specialty services tend to come in the form of projects, which results in CMEC having assets that generate electricity in strategic niches, which are intended to lower the costs to the member utilities. As for the ratepayer's job, Connecticut law simply said that CMEC needed to have a representative role, somebody who is not a utility employee or utility professional. But Norwich ordinance is a little more prescriptive and requires the representative to do without conflicts of interest, be a professional, otherwise able to be assistants to the board, and be able to make the commitment to the board. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm a board member equal to any other board member at CMEC, except on decisions involving how member utilities choose to financially support or invest in projects, those niche applications. The utility heads make those decisions. So I end up having a role where I work to understand and challenge how CMEC makes decisions and how they function I can challenge how costs are accounted for and reported. I'm watching to make sure that audits are routinely conducted, including a forensic audit. And it's a lot about understanding the processes they follow and the procedures that are in place that ensure proper function in accounting. Bottom line, though, is what we all want is reliable electricity at the lowest reasonably achievable cost. So when you serve on the board, CMEC expects you to serve on 2 committees at least. Last year, I served on the Budget and Finance Committee and on the Risk Committee. This year, I'm serving on the Compensation and Personnel Policy Committee and on the Legislative Affairs Committee. Between the 2 board and committee meetings, I attended 22 meetings last year. Their committee meetings are about 2 hours long, and the board meetings are 3-hour affairs. They take place during weekdays, during business hours, which is that key part about the Norwich Ordinance being able to make a commitment to the board. So first and foremost, cost performance. So CMEC continued to procure wholesale electricity and deliver it to the utilities at a rate significantly below the benchmark, which is how we gauge their performance. They use their assets to produce electricity in those niche applications, and they've done this consistently well for multiple years. They're running consistently about 30% below the benchmark, which is Eversource. So these niche applications, which we call projects, CMEC obtains financing to pay for the associated equipment and the construction and the licensing and the studies. Once operational, the revenue from those projects are supposed to cover debt service and provide income, which offsets the cost of electricity to the members, so that there is net benefit to the members over the life of the project. So obviously their credit rating is important to getting a good rate on on the borrowing. So rating agencies periodically review CMEC to determine their creditworthiness, and this year they improved their rating from Fitch from A+ to AA-, which I'm told is on par with their existing Moody's rating of AA3. The result is CMEC refinanced existing debt, and it led to about $1 million saving per year. Another change. CMEC is required by the risk policy to buy the necessary electricity in a given month well in advance of need. That takes away the risk of weather-related or disaster-related spikes in energy prices like we saw in Texas recently. But that approach, which we call hedging, doesn't always get the best price. That reduction in risk comes at some price. But CMEC employees monitor all the markets, and they could see that the day-ahead wholesale markets were giving good rates, and they recommended that the Risk Committee entertain a change to the policy to give them a little more latitude to be less hedged going into a month so they could take advantage of these markets. The idea is that they would be able to apply the relaxed policy mostly in July and August. Now, the patterns of electricity has changed. Most days behave like snow days compared to typical business days, but even so, they successfully applied the policy, and they track how much they benefit from that improvement at board meetings, and they'll find more opportunities here in 2021. I think some of you may recall that a forensic audit was done in 2018, and I joined the board in 2019, and there were a number of changes in progress or planned to get started on the basis of a forensic audit. They sustained that effort. They completed the actions. They continued making changes which increased transparency and cost reporting and establish appropriate controls on spending. And we're talking about travel, we're talking about events, retreats. So those are constructive changes and some good performance in the area of cost. Now, the budgeting process, which I got deeply involved in being on the committee this past year, was very informative. There's a very detailed budget that's presented that requires me to do my homework before I show up. There's a lot of detail, and every detail is presented with rationale. We talk about, is it increasing, is it decreasing, is it staying the same, and why? So that every budget line item gets scrutiny. There are no automatic carryovers, and it's important from my perspective, as much as I've learned about this business, I still can't manage it. I can govern it on the board. I needed to see staff come up with cost-saving ideas that reduced and eliminated some line items, and they did, which was heartening to see. I saw the new CEO challenge and question CMEX staff in these working level committee meetings on the basis of the budget. Now, this new CEO was appointed in late 2019. He effectively started work first week of January. So this was his first time through the budgeting process in 2020. And I could see him giving the budget and the process a critical evaluation from a fresh perspective. These kinds of behaviors, I think, are really important to observe in CMEC. COVID-19, of course, affected CMEC, or I should say it affected how they ran the offices. They were looking at the market primarily to see what was happening with wholesale energy prices. They were also trying to pay attention to what was happening to businesses and demand for electricity. So they did some, what they call stress testing, financial math exercises to understand how their finances would handle changes to the marketplace. They were worried about the loss of revenue from businesses shutting down. But I think, we're all grateful that it never got extreme, at least not locally, but it was nice to see CMEC to get in front of the pandemic and formulate a plan rather than just be reactive. So the staff had to work remotely to the extent that they could. All board meetings were conducted via Zoom starting in March, and we're still doing that now. I don't like it. It's harder to look people in the eye, but it's working. Every function continued. All the committees met. Nobody stopped. No hiccups at all. We met as scheduled and functioned as planned. So naturally, I've got to talk about legal issues. I can't go in an annual report without that. And I'm sad to report that there really hasn't been significant progress on the pending criminal and civil trials against the former CEO and other individuals. The criminal trial being more severe, potential loss of liberty, it's got to go first. And it's been delayed multiple times. I'm told a lot of it has to do with not being able to put a jury together with all the restrictions that we have right now. And I don't like this. It's dismaying. That's the word I used in my report. There's also very little progress on the legal action against the insurance company from whom CMEC got their directors and officers policy. When your board members get into legal trouble, you have insurance to cover legal fees, or so CMEC thinks. And there's obviously a disagreement, and that's continuing in legal circles. I will tell you, though, that the staff has moved on, and they don't worry about it. They don't think about it. It doesn't affect day-to-day operations of the staff. It's not a distraction anymore. It's just, a never-ending story. So for a number of years, CMEC had an acting CEO, and while they didn't neglect thinking about the future, nobody rolled up their shirt sleeves and really came up with a strategic plan. That was something that we wanted the new CEO to do. It was an imperative action for him. And they put a lot of work into it. A strategic plan is really important right now because based on what I've read and what I hear CMEC telling me, the electric power industry is entering a period of rapid change. So got to be thinking about a way to navigate the changes that we think are coming. This was a big effort by a lot of staff. They put a lot of thought into it. I'm happy to report that the focus is still on low-cost electricity, but they know that they've got to do some studying and thinking and planning to navigate the anticipated changes. So the strategic plan actually has a lot of work in it to do as we get smarter about pending changes. On the matter of pending changes, the state of Connecticut is looking at establishing a goal to be carbon neutral. At one point, it was 80% neutral by 2040. I think that the draft or the concept bill is 100% carbon neutral by 2040. And that's going to be challenging. The folks that CMEC talks to talk about the ability to make a lot of change, make a significant change in towards carbon neutral is pretty good, but the last 10% could be very expensive. Now, the state, you folks probably know the process better than I do, but the state asked for comment, and sure enough, we put our heads together, and CMEC provided comments this month, which basically say, good goal, we want to work with you, but as a small player, we need a latitude, we need to be able to maneuver a little bit more and flexibility, but we want to work with you to get to the goal. And they joined with a lot of industry experts who across the board say that the way wholesale energy markets work in New England will make introduction of renewables difficult. If you think about it, our grid values reliability, but you're going to get electricity from renewables like wind and solar, which are not reliable like a gas-fired plant. So something's got to change, and I think the state is listening. We'll be following what happens there. Also, you know, if you were to take a huge wind farm and place it exactly where a coal-fired plant was, you'd have plenty of infrastructure to support that. But chances are we're going to site these things in someplace different, in which case the grid's going to need some overhaul as well, and the grid's going to have to get smarter because of the variability introduced by renewables. So there's a lot of work to get done that's way outside what Crystal Rose has to do in Norwich. It's bigger than CMEC, and we need the state to embrace that and work with other states to go make upgrades to the grid that support this vision of carbon neutral in 2040. So, you know, given that there is a strategic plan that talks about it, given that CMEC is engaged with the state and also with ISO, the independent system operator, effectively the grid operator, on these topics, I think it's a good thing. Overall, I think CMEC is on a good path. The new CEO, Dave Meisinger, has a very good collaborative approach. He moves us along. There's no question that he needs decisions to get made, but he does it in a way that brings everybody along with him. So he appears to be a really good fit. He has embraced and sustained the changes that we've been working towards with increased transparency and accountability at the board level. And like I said earlier, I've witnessed cost-conscious behavior at the CMEC staff and in the CEO. And with CMEC actively preparing for the future, you know, I like what I see, and I'm happy to report on that. Are there any questions?
Thank you, David. Questions of the membership? Yes, Alderman Gould.
David, thank you for being with us tonight. What do you think's been the biggest change that you've seen from when you first were appointed as our ratepayer representative to what you're seeing now? What's the aha? Was there an aha moment at CMEC or an aha moment for yourself that you said, oh, now they get it?
It's been a continual learning evolution. I find that I've had to go over some of the board materials a couple of times before it really lodges in my brain what's going on. But I wouldn't say that there has been an aha moment. It's been a steady learning process And every, well, you know, as I'm rambling here, let me tell you this. When I got onto the risk committee and I understood what they did in terms of hedging and how the business worked to protect us from spikes, I had an aha moment after a couple of the risk committee meetings. With legislative affairs, which is just this year, having the lobbyists come in and talk to us about what's going on. You know, we would talk in broad terms at the board meeting, but it wasn't until we got into the details at the committee meeting level where I really got an understanding of what's happening or what is planned to happen and the long-term effects. So I would tell you that going to board meetings was good, but the committee meetings are where you do a tremendous amount of learning.
Thank you. And it sounds like you're doing a tremendous amount of work, and I'm sure everyone here on the council agrees with me that we can't thank you enough for the hard work that you are putting in, because your report is concise but detailed, and obviously you are putting your heart and soul into this. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Other members?
You're welcome.
Alderman Bencourt.
Hey, David, this is Mark Betancourt. First, again, I'd like to thank you for the report. I think I've told you this before. You do excellent work, and I'm always impressed when I see something from you. So, with that said, other than the legal issues, is there anything that gives you any kind of pause that you would really want to keep an eye on going forward with CMEC?
There are a lot of moving parts to that business. As the projects get older, those little niche applications that I talk about, they all have a planned lifespan. And as they get further and further into their lifespan, there's a natural end to those things where they no longer are cost effective. Watching what CMEC does to either replace them or manage how we shut them down is going to take, business acumen that I don't think I have, but I'll be watching CMEC how they handle those aging projects very closely.
So you're referring to like capital expenses, decommissioning and commissioning new items? Is that what you're talking about?
Right. For example, there's a plant that they've got that when supply gets tight and demand gets high, the price of electricity goes up, and this plant is there for those situations. It's the kind of thing that you turn on in 30 minutes and you're producing electricity at a favorable rate that makes CMEC money. That plant is nearing the end of its financial value to CMEC, and that's got to be dealt with smartly. I think the asset might need to be sold or its operating profile changed. I don't know what the solution is, but it's something that they've got to figure out. And I'm happy that they're working on it, but it needs to be handled with a sense of urgency.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman DeLucia.
Thank you. David, this is Joe DeLucia. I just wanted to thank you for the thorough and in-depth report that you gave us. We got an advance copy. I read it a couple of times, and it was not surprising the level of detail that you provide us with, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Alderman Wilson.
Good evening, Dave. I want to say thank you again also for this very detailed report. I will say the report's at a level where any individual could read it and really understand what's going on. One of the things I know you talked about in the report around the goal of being carbon neutral and the 2040 year. Do you see, I know you talked about some of the renewable types of energy being talked about, and really a strategic plan around how to address it is being thought out. Do you see a lot of infrastructure projects or situational pieces having to be worked on or strategically planned for upgrades in the coming years due to that being a goal?
So that's, I'm not sure my crystal ball reads that very well. The industry experts are saying that the market has to change first, and that the way the wholesale markets operate have to change first. Otherwise, it's going to be too much risk for CMEC to go invest in something substantial without understanding financially how it's going to work out. Even though we talk about CMEC having a lot of money coming from the different members, most of that money, or nearly all of it, goes to buying electricity. In order for them to get into these niche markets and help lower the cost, they got to take a loan, and they're not going to do that unless they have a really, really well understood and managed risk. So until the state and New England states as a whole work out what they really want to do, I think CMEC is going to be hesitant to make any dramatic moves, and that makes me comfortable for now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? David, this is the mayor. Your notes point out that the New England power grid is not very well strategically placed in order to accommodate these renewables and green power. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
So the New England grid values reliability so much so that if you have agreed to supply power at a certain time, at a certain rate, so much power, and you fail to deliver, there's a financial penalty. So you can't you can't be anything but reliable, or you lose money and you're out of business in New England. And you think about wind power, and you say, well, you never know whether you have wind power or not, so you got to couple it with energy storage. And we don't have energy storage at any great scale right now. Solar panels I see getting installed with batteries, but it's still not that much energy. So given that the market does not make it financially attractive for a lot of folks to get into it unless there's a dramatic breakthrough in battery technology, things aren't going to change. The grid and the markets need to somehow make renewables attractive, and if that means creating a law that then says you must be so much renewable, folks will start to buy it. But as long as there's a penalty for not delivering it, it seems like a bad business idea. So that's what I mean by the markets needing to change and the grid needing to change. The grid's going to have to be more flexible too, because you'll get wind power off the coast of Massachusetts and not in Long Island sometimes, and then sometimes it's different. And the grid's got to handle all of that. And right now, I think this is kind of stretch for me with my knowledge, but the grid is really set up for these large, stable, baseload energy sources, where it's much more predictable. And it's not going to be as predictable going forward, and the grid's not quite ready to handle that. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Any other questions at this time? All right, David, thank you very much. The council is all
Thank you.
set.
City managers report.
John, the floor is yours.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just a point of clarification. Do we have to accept his report as a petition of communication?
I believe we should, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll motion that we do.
Thank you very much, sir, for catching that. Is there a second? Second, Alderwoman Miles. The discussion on accepting the report? Seeing none, a roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. It is accepted.
I'm back.
Thank you, John. Go ahead.
Should I start over?
Yes, please, for the public record.
Thank you. Okay, this is the city managers meeting for March 1st, 2021. Meetings attended via conference call or video were weekly Governor Lamont updates, state representative and legislators, Southeastern Council of Governments, Southeastern Area Transit, NPU city coordination meetings, Region 4 Emergency Support Plan, Department of Health, COVID-19 updates, Harbor Management Commission, NCDC board meetings, and director search, and finally Passport to Norwich updates, and of course, fire negotiations. Bids were opened for the Franklin Square Roundabout project on Wednesday, February 24th. A total of 10 bids were received. The low bid was Nunez Company from Ludlow, Mass, with a bid of $539,000. While slightly higher than the engineer's estimate, it was within the expected range of costs. The engineering office is currently evaluating the bids with an award expected shortly. The funding for the project includes a $400,000 Connecticut DOT Community Connectivity Grant. The balance of the project costs will be coming from the infrastructure bond funds. It is anticipated that construction will begin in mid-April, and the contractor will have 120 days to complete the project. The City of Norwich Office of Community Development has received 15 funding requests for Plan Year 47, totaling $1,130,000. It is anticipated that the city's allocation from HUD will be $861,000. Applications will be reviewed this month. The Rose City Senior Center supported activities of the Uncas Health District by hosting vaccination sites, providing support and calling people to confirm their appointments. They also participated in a food drive in memory of Jason Vincent. Norwich Human Services has registered over 300 people for vaccinations at various sites, including the new site at Mohegan Sun, since many people do not have computers or know how to use technology to schedule their appointments. They also continue to enroll people for help paying for internet access to break the digital divide. The Recreation Department is tentatively booking fields and facilities for spring. This is with the caveat that these will be available only if governor's guidelines and the city manager concurs that the infection rate are low enough to proceed. Since COVID began, the city has held virtual meetings either through Zoom or TurboBridge. These meetings have required us to store significantly more data and incur additional costs for that storage. We are now up against the limit again, and instead of purchasing more resources, all city council videos from the website are linked to our YouTube channel. Clicking on the media button on the council's meeting agenda will now route you to YouTube. The city's website will continue to host other boards and commissions. We may reevaluate this when and if storage becomes an issue again. The live stream button will continue to function when the council has a meeting, information, council session, department budget hearings, or budget hearings. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, John. Are there questions of the city manager? Alderman Wilson.
Thank you again, John, for your report. I want to say I'm happy to see the continued work and effort of the staff of the Rose City Senior Center and Norwich Human Services really putting their hands to work to not only help with vaccinations, but getting people to get registered. I know that had been a huge difficulty for the age groups that were being tended to over the last several weeks in the upper age bracket. And I think it's good that we are taking the time to make sure we get every single resident that is wanting of the vaccination shot a chance to get vaccinated to help us out with really controlling and defeating this COVID-19 virus long term. The other thing I see you talk about the virtual meetings and space and whatnot, and I'm glad that we've bridged the YouTube channel piece to it. It's just another access point for individuals to access the information and meetings here that happen here in council chamber, and even some department meetings and committee meetings. So, I think us understanding the impact that the internet and media and storage has on what we are doing moving forward is going to be important, especially as we continue to move through this year and not knowing that, this room being packed as it would be during certain times is not going to be a thing right away. So giving people another access or avenue to bridge getting the information is wonderful, and I thank you and your staff for coming up with creative ways to continue to allow that to happen. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Other questions to the manager? Just for information, report that the food distributions at the Massachusetts parking lot will again continue through the end of this month of March on every Monday. They've been extremely busy. They were again this morning. The food distribution in memory of Jason Vincent served 380 families. Our goal was 400 families last Thursday. But the interest in supporting a food distribution in his name continues, and United Way is again accepting contributions. Without getting into numbers, I will simply tell you that the amount of money raised in the first one has already been far exceeded. And it's simply amazing the outreach that Jason provided for so many people that they're still stepping forward and wanting to do something in his name. And that is now looking at middle April. Another food drive in his name will take place. But there's a lot of good stuff still happening and helping families, which is very important. If there are no other questions of our city manager?
Citizen comment on resolutions.
At this time, I declare citizen comment on resolutions on the agenda to be open. If you wish to speak to one of the 8 resolutions, the number to call is 860-215-8140. And when prompted, please use the conference ID 403-8191, followed by the pound key. The lines are open. Again, the lines. Oh.
Good evening, this is Marvin Cerruto, 100 Star Street, Norwich, Connecticut, the United States of America. First and foremost, I would like to thank Dave for his presentation. You obviously have the right person and the right job there For those of you who don't know me, I was a nuclear reactor operator and a nuclear chemist for some 20 years for Florida Power and Light. And if you'd like to talk about the grid sometime, I'd love to just talk to you about that because it's one of my loves of life. I would like to address resolution number 8. I'm going to sound like a broken record. I want us to be frugal. I want us to have a fiduciary responsibility. This nation is spending a lot of money. The state is spending a lot of money. And the city's spending a lot of money. And guess what? It's all our money. So let's use our head with this as we go down this path, because it just appears to me to be a super big ticket item. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you, sir. Lines are still open. Again, dial 860. Oh, it's not, okay. Again, the number is 860-215-8140, and the conference ID is 403-8191, followed by the pound key. It's been reported that there's a problem with the screen being seen apparently on, I'm going to guess, the public access channel. So again, the number is 860-215-8140, and when connected, dial the conference ID 403-8191 and the pound key, please.
The batteries are dead, so we're just trying to fix it. They just can't see that, so you'll have to repeat the number, that's all, sorry.
Again, the number to call in is 860-215-8140. And when connected, please use conference ID 403-8191 and the pound key. We apologize, we're experiencing some technical difficulties.
What's the issue?
The batteries are dead.
Oh, jeez.
So, the batteries, and then I opened it.
Again, to call in, please use this number, 860-215-8140, followed by the conference ID 403-8191 and the pound key. Again, we're experiencing a technical difficulty here. The number to call in is 860-215-8140, followed by the conference ID 403-8191 and the pound key.
got control?
You said it enough times. It's showing you all now.
Yeah, okay. You got remote access, Joe?
That's all we can do, that's what he's on.
Yeah.
I mean, you said it plenty of times.
Again, with the difficulty taking place, we're going to request one more time. If you wish to call in on one of the 8 resolutions, the number is 860-215-8140, followed by the conference ID 403-8191 and the pound key. At this time, seeing there are no other callers, we would then declare the citizen comment to be closed. Thank you.
Relative to, number 1, relative to the sale of 8 Garfield Avenue.
At this time, I request a motion to bring Resolution 1 to the floor, and I have some amending language to recommend following that motion. Alderman Wilson, second by Alderwoman Gould. At this time, I would ask the council's indulgence and recommend that it be amended as follows. In paragraph 3, where the blank is, please list the amount $40,000. In paragraph 4, and that is line 4, again, the sum of $40,000. The next line is to Alpha Holdings, LLC. Alpha Holdings, LLC. And on the final blank, again in paragraph 4, please repeat the term Alpha Holdings, LLC. Can I please have a motion to add that language? Yes, President Pro Tem Mark Betancourt, second. Alderwoman Miles. Is there a discussion on the amendment as offered? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Betancourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
So that is 6-0.
The amendment passes 6-0. On the resolution as amended, is there further discussion? Seeing none, a roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderwoman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Betancourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
And that's 6-0.
Thank you. The motion passes 6-0.
Number 2, relative to allow for a substantial amendment and incorporation of the CDBG-CV, round 2.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please, to bring this forward? Alderwoman Miles, second Alderman Gould. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Betancourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Number 3, relative to a reappointment of a regular member to the redevelopment agency.
Motion to bring this forward, please. Alderman Wilson, second Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion on the appointments? Yes, Alderman Wilson.
Just want to continue to thank James Cordo for stepping forward to be an integral asset when it comes to the redevelopment agency and really anything that he's done here in the city of North. So thanking him for continuing his service.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Betancourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Number 4, relative to reallocate funds from the capital projects for replacement of a public works plow chipper truck renovations of the 23 Union Street Conference Room, and rehabilitation of the Little Plains Park fence.
Thank you. Motion, please bring this forward. Alderwoman Miles, second. Alderman Wilson, is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Number 5, relative to listing with signature properties, 33 East Cliff Street.
Motion, please bring this forward. Alderwoman Miles, second. Alderman Wilson, is there discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Number 6, relative to merge 23-25 Lake Street with the Lake Street Playground property.
Motion, please bring it forward. Alderwoman Gould, second. Alderwoman Miles. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Number 7, relative to approval of the CPAC partial release agreement.
Motion, please, to bring this forward. Alderwoman Miles, second. Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman
I'm sorry.
Pardon me, I'm sorry. Alderman DeLucia.
No, it's okay, my hand was late going up. I just had a question about the attached exhibit. There's blanks in the first paragraph. Do we need to have that filled in before we move forward?
That's corporate counsel.
Yeah, corporate counsel. You need a moment to look at that. Effective date.
Yes. On the exhibit, and just in the first paragraph, is calling for a date.
I think you don't at this point, because we've not set a date by which this is to be effective. And they would put that in there at the time. The resolution allows the city manager to sign the agreement only if he feels it's satisfactory to him, so at the time he signs it, presumably, they'll have an effective date.
Okay.
I think the effective date is intended, and Mr. Parthia may know better than I do, to be around the end of April.
So once it's executed, that'll be the date that gets inserted. That's fine.
It
Yep.
could be May 1st, it could be April 30th,
No.
it could be
No.
whatever date they want to execute it.
Yeah, as long as it's, leaving it blank is not an issue for our action, then it can stay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Therefore, move forward with a roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Number 8, relative to obtaining potential preliminary estimates to upgrade the dispatch system.
Thank you. At this time, I request that we, in moving this resolution forward, refer it to our Public Safety Committee.
So moved.
Alderman DeLucia, second. Pro Tem Bettencourt. Is there further discussion? Yes. City Clerk?
Jim, fill in that last date.
Not until it comes back.
It would be based on the reported coming back from our Public Safety Committee's review and discussion. Again, I believe, leave it blank at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you for the concern. Seeing no other discussion, roll call on this, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould.
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bentor.
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom.
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0.
Motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn by Alderman Gould, second by Alderman Wilson. Roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia.
Yes.
Alderwoman Miles.
Yes.
Alderman Wilson.
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould.
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bentor.
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom.
Yes.
That's 6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned this evening. Thank you.